And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back into SEC Talk, back to our regular slate on Sunday night, and hope everybody is enjoying the end of this great weekend and starting to get closer to the holiday season. Thanksgiving is going to be here before we know it. Christmas is just around the corner. And the end of this college football regular season as well is just around the corner. We have one more week pretty much of like kind of these crappy games. You have like some of these SEC teams playing like Mercer, Eastern Illinois. We'll have rivalry week next week, which is also one of my favorite weeks of the year. But boy, let's talk about a weekend that we had in the SEC. We almost had a complete chaos in the conference with South Carolina being up 30-3. Texas A&M storming all the way to back to win that game 31-30 to stay unbeaten. And then we also saw a potential upset with Oklahoma knocking off Alabama for the second straight year in a row. So Oklahoma now a legitimate threat to make the college football playoff. Georgia beating the crap out of Texas, which has been a yearly tradition at this point. Now that Texas has won all matchups against Georgia in this conference, so a lot is shaken up over these past couple of weeks, and this is definitely going to be a crucial next 2 weeks for the conference. And once we get to conference championship for who and what teams are going to make this 12-team field. So, Wade, with all that, how was your weekend?
Yeah, it was good. I got to watch some of these matchups, particularly last night with Georgia and Texas, and then before that, to me, the game of the week, Alabama and Oklahoma. That was quite a thrilling finish. So yeah, it was good to just put my feet up and watch a little football for a change, and looking forward to I think this is a good weekend to do some holiday shopping.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of good games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some like good conference matchups, but yeah, if you have to do some holiday shopping, maybe get your turkey dinner ready. This might be the weekend for you, especially in the SEC. I think that we have some really good matchups outside the conference, headlined by USC and Oregon in the Big Ten. But there are some, okay matchups in the SEC that are going to carry the day. But most of these teams are playing like FCS or lower tier opponents in the FBS. So let's go ahead and dive into the show. As always, here, just want to remind our viewers, if you have any questions pertaining to your favorite team or teams in the conference, how they did on the field, and what the future is going to look like. Because as we mentioned the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of coach openings, a lot of rumors swirling around message boards in the social media world. So if you have any questions pertaining to all that, feel free to leave us a comment. We will get to it here at the end of the show. We're both live on Facebook and YouTube. Always appreciate everybody tuning in, leaving a like or a comment on the video. So let's go ahead and dive into our games of the week, starting with the wildest game of the weekend here in the SEC. South Carolina went on the road to College Station to face off against the number 3 Texas A&M Aggies. And it was all South Carolina, 30-3 at the half. You saw a lot of fireworks and a lot of turnovers from Texas A&M. You had a fumble, a scoop and score. Then you had like 3 interceptions by Marcel Reed, 2 of which resulted in really good field position. And you really saw Lenore Sellers in this offense really generate a lot of points off those turnovers. You had that 80-yard catch by Nick Harbor that really vaulted South Carolina to this big lead. Everybody was hyped. You saw Shane Beamer walking into the half, pumping up the crowd that traveled all the way from Columbia, South Carolina. And everything just immediately shifted. South Carolina immediately went 3 and out. I feel like if they would have scored like even a field goal at least, like if they would have scored, maybe make it like 33-3 or 37-3 at that point, that is a tough hill to climb. But South Carolina didn't really get nothing out of their first drive. But after that, Texas A&M's defense was really stout in the second half. Their offense, Marcel Reed turned it on. He had probably one of the worst halves of football that I have seen in quite some time. In the second half, though, really played like a Heisman caliber quarterback, as we will see in SEC fantasy here in a couple of minutes. But Texas A&M's offense had a lot of big plays, was able to take the late lead there with a rushing touchdown. So they went up 31-30. Texas A&M they did get the ball back to really put this one away, but they fumbled it away. And South Carolina had an opportunity. They were driving for a little bit. And then back-to-back plays, Lenore Sellers just took sacks. So at that point, he should have just got rid of the football with some boneheaded mistakes by Lenore Sellers, and that's just how the South Carolina season has been now that South Carolina is out of bowl eligibility now 3-7. So definitely a disappointing season for the Gamecocks. They were a preseason top 15 team. You saw all the hype coming out of last season, winning 9 games. But South Carolina, this was like the game that potentially might have saved Shane Beamer's job at this point. I mean, he just needs to go at this point, in my opinion. But wait, the wackiness from the first half to the second half, and you saw the stat after the game. 0-286 was opponents when they were trailing by 27. Texas A&M now makes that stat 1-286. So what a game to start it off on Saturday afternoon in College Station.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it looked like one of those games where, just like we talked about, I mean, we said South Carolina would probably get off to a hot start coming off the bye week. A&M would be a little relaxed and snoozing. But then we thought that it would end and A&M would just trounce on them second quarter on. Well, hey, that wasn't the case. And I was obviously watching our game mostly, and I was out and about. And I saw that score kept ticking up and up. And sure enough, it was 30-3. And I was like, oh, South Carolina's got this in the bag. And then they get blanked in the second half. You just can't script it. I didn't watch the second half, so I don't know if they just got sloppy or too conservative with the play calling, but that's brutal. And I think any gas this Gamecock team had left in the tank it's done. I mean, they got to be careful not to lose to Coastal Carolina this week, because that's going to be a team that's juiced and having a chance to play the big state school. And then Clemson kind of looks like they're turning a corner. So it might get uglier for the Gamecocks. I mean, it's hard to not be dejected from a game like this, but let me tell you one thing. South Carolina fans are very happy that we're entering this new scheduling era, because this forced annual opponent here with A&M has done nothing good for the Garnet and Black. I think they went 1-13 in these matchups. So good riddance, A&M.
Yeah, I bet South Carolina fans are definitely happy. Yeah, you bring up a good point. Look at the end of the schedule here for South Carolina. You have Coastal Carolina and the Clemson team, like you mentioned, they just went on the road and beat a top 20 team in Louisville. So Clemson starting, I'm not going to say like they're going to start to turn the corner and become a contender. I mean, they're 5-5, definitely a disappointing season for them. On the other hand, though, Texas A&M winning this one now 10-0 on the season. They play Sanford, who's a one-win team. They're going to be 11-0, and then they have to go on the road to a Texas team that, to be honest with you, is very beatable. Like, this could be a team that we're talking about at the end of the season that's 12-0 in the SEC championship. I think that they are a lock at this point in the SEC championship, unless they lose to Texas. Then that opens up a spot for Georgia. So Texas A&M still a lot to play for, both for a trip to Atlanta and the college football playoff. They're a lock of the college football playoff. They're not going to lose to Sanford. So at the very least, this team will be 11-1 and making their first trip ever to the college football playoff. So definitely a destined season for the Aggies, and we will see if they can put it together, because this has been like 3 or 4 games where Texas A&M has these slow starts. So you won't be able to do this once you get to the college football playoff. So Texas A&M, though, a big win, because if they lost this one, then if they lose to Texas, they might have been out completely of the race for Atlanta. So this was definitely a huge win for Mike Elko's squad. Now let's move on to the upset of the day, if you want to call it an upset. Really, at this point, I think that these are just two of the more talented teams in the conference. We had number 11, Oklahoma, and number 4, Alabama. I told you last week that this was going to be a grinded-out game that Alabama was going to be involved in back-to-back weeks. And what do you know? Oklahoma went up 10-0 in this game. They got a field goal on their first drive, and then Alabama was driving. Then Ty Simpson had that pick six, and Oklahoma, just like that, was up 10-0 at the start of the second quarter. Alabama was able to put up some points to make things close going into the halftime. And Oklahoma and John Mateer, you really saw John Mateer. I think that he's finally starting to get healthy. You saw after that surgery that he had, what he looked like in the Red River rivalry against Texas. Even the Ole Miss game looked kind of shaky. Looks like he's starting to turn the corner. That's definitely some good news. And Oklahoma's defense, I think that's been the story of this team. I think that a lot of people wants to talk about John Mateer and Isaiah Satinga on this offense. But, man, this defense shut down Alabama's rushing attack. Jam Miller was very limited in the rushing game, I didn't really see many big plays from the Alabama receivers too. You saw a little bit of Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. So they did a very nice job of limiting the big plays. I know that Josh Cuevas, the tight end, did have a couple of big plays, but that's okay as long as you can limit your Alabama's playmakers. That's going to do you wonders. And Oklahoma definitely had some stout really defensive stops in the fourth quarter. Alabama went for it on fourth down multiple times, including the game winner. As Oklahoma, this was definitely big for them, especially them already having 2 losses overall. If they won this one, they were looking pretty solid because you look at their schedule. They host Missouri and host LSU. I think that they feel really good about their chances of finishing this season 10-2 and being one of those representatives from the SEC in the college football playoff. Alabama side now gets a little bit tricky. You do have, a cupcake game coming up against Eastern Illinois. Then you have to go on the road to an Auburn team that's feeling themselves a little bit because it looks like the offensive identity with Ashton Daniels is there. In Auburn's defense, I know they gave up a lot against Vandy, but Auburn's defense has really been solid. So Alabama now really they really have no leverage anymore. They have to win out if they do want to make this college football playoff. So Oklahoma, that was just my big takeaway. This was a huge win for them, especially for the college football playoff chances.
Yeah, I mean, it was do or die if they lost. They were going to be going to the Citrus Bowl or the Texas Bowl or something of that nature. So they had to win. This is another one that's a little bit of a head scratcher to me. Oklahoma beats Alabama 2 years in a row, and I guess they just got some intel on this team. But yeah, I mean, I still think this Alabama team's solid, but we have seen them look vulnerable to some inferior opponents like LSU and South Carolina, and I think it finally caught up to them today in Oklahoma. So, I don't think either one of these teams is invincible. I think they definitely have flaws, but at the moment, I think that they both are playoff caliber teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So big win for the Sooners. Oklahoma, like I mentioned, will be hosting Mizzou. Alabama will be hosting Eastern Illinois. Now let's go on to the next game, which has both storylines on and off the field. Both of these teams vying to either take away Lane Kiffin or keep Lane Kiffin. It was Florida at number 7, Ole Miss. Ole Miss ended up winning this one 34-24. This was really close. I know that the score results in a double-digit win for Ole Miss, but Florida really played well for 4 quarters. They were up 24-20 at the half. Even going into the third quarter, you had nothing going for both offenses as Florida took a 24-20 lead. You got to give credit to Ole Miss's defense. They really stepped up in the fourth quarter. DJ Lagway had some big plays, especially in the second half. Jadon Ball continues to be a really bright spot for this offense. That's had some games where they struggled. But the story in this one, let's be honest with you, is Kawan Lacey, 229 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. So you had a lot of key running backs. We're not going to talk about Ahmad Hardy against Mississippi State because that was a blowout. But Ahmad Hardy and Kawan Lacey has been number 1 and number 2 in this conference. And Trinidad Chambliss, once again, a terrific performance. But Ole Miss, another big win for them. I feel like this was like a trap game for them, especially with all the noise that is surrounding their program and specifically their coach. But this was a really tough game for Ole Miss. You got to give credit to fans, too. That was one of the best atmospheres that I watched on TV. And if you were there in the stands in Vaught Hemingway Stadium, definitely felt like a nice environment. But Ole Miss, their 3rd straight season winning 10-plus games. They are well on their way to the college football playoff. If they were to take down Mississippi State, they are on the bye this season, so they could very well finish 11-1. But in rivalry games, it doesn't matter Mississippi State's 0-12 or not. That game's always going to come down to the wire. But winning this one against Florida was definitely huge because if you lose, then like we said about Alabama, if you have 2 losses going into the Egg Bowl, then the room for comfort is out the door. But Ole Miss, I expect them to move up in the polls, maybe be a top 5 team come on Tuesday night when the next college football playoff rankings are unveiled. For Florida, like South Carolina, another team, another disappointment. They will not be bowling in quite some time now. So that I definitely need to talk about Florida and South Carolina's disappointment. But Ole Miss, continued success, and they're definitely going to be a legitimate threat for the college football playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the balanced offense, a capable quarterback, dual threat capabilities, and Chambliss and one of the better running backs. I mean, I think this offense is going to carry the team. The defense came out the gate slow. I mean, Florida was up early in this one, but I think the defense overall has been pretty solid. So it looks like Ole Miss might just miss out on getting to the SEC championship based on some tiebreakers, but that's okay. I mean, I think that they could hang
I
in
think they would rather that.
yeah, hang in the 6 to 10 range, and just hopefully maybe 6, 7, or 8, just to be able to host the first round. But I mean, I think at this point, it would take a pretty bad finish for them to miss out on the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to get like blown out by Mississippi State for that to happen, and like a lot of really chaos happening behind them. But I just don't really see it. For Florida, like I mentioned, 7 losses on the season. Definitely a team that has like 2 more chances they have to host Tennessee and then Florida State at the end of the season. So maybe they get to 5 wins to at least salvage something for this season. But they are just looking to the future. Hopefully, hire a nice head coach, and so they can build on that. So now let's go on to the next one. To be honest with you, we're probably not going to spend too much on this one because this was a legitimate blowout. Number 10, Texas, went on the road to Athens and got the doors beat on them yet again. Number 5, Georgia, ended up winning this one 35-10, and this wasn't really close. I mean, it got to 14-10. Heading into the third and even to the fourth quarter, and Georgia really just poured it on. Gunnar Stockton continues to be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC this season. You did see Nate Frazier continue from a big game last week to this week. You saw like pretty much every receiver get involved, especially Zachariah Branch. In this game, Georgia's defense continues to be among the elite. I think that a lot of people had a lot of question marks early in the season. They played some really good offenses like Tennessee. But if Georgia plays like they did on Saturday, then they very might well just win the national championship. Obviously, Ohio State and Indiana might have something to say about that. But Texas, I think that their hopes and dreams ended, especially with this. And maybe if it was a close loss, I would say that. But that loss against Ohio State's only going to provide you so much whenever you have 3 losses. So Georgia, they may not even make the SEC championship, but I think they're A-okay with being maybe the number 4 seed and getting a first-round bye, or even the number 5 seed, and having a home game against maybe the winner of the American Conference or the Sun Belt. But Georgia, utter dominance against the Texas team. That's been a roller coaster ride this season. I think that Georgia, they have answered all my doubts, and this is definitely a team that could really make a deep run.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of like Ole Miss, a team that can run the ball and throw the ball consistently, a proven veteran quarterback. I think that's going to carry a team like this a long way. And, the talent's there on defense for sure. I don't think it's been that same elite Georgia defense that we've come to, just see the last few seasons. But, I mean, here you go on a big stage. They're able to shut down Texas, who hasn't always been great offensively, but they were kind of finding their groove, and they didn't allow that to continue at their home stadium. So if this Georgia team's hosting a first-round game, which it looks like they will be, if they hold on to that 5 ranking, good luck to whoever has to come in there, especially if it's like a 2-loss American Conference team at this point.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want that as well. But big win for the Dogs, and that is our recap at our top games of the conference. We had some other games. LSU winning 23-22 against Arkansas, in Missouri blowing out Mississippi State in the Ahmad Hardy game, because, I mean, my gosh, that guy just continues to dominate opposing defenses. He's going to get one of his biggest tests coming up against Oklahoma rush defense. That is one of the best in the league, so we will definitely get to those games. Now let's move on to our Week 12 pick and results. Wade, after undefeated, went down to 6-2. Still very good. I went 7-1. Chet went 7-1. However, Chet did pick South Carolina. If it wasn't for the South Carolina blunder, we would have had back-to-back weeks with undefeated. But nonetheless, that is very good results as we get later on this week. Now let's move on to our SEC teams in the AP Top 25 poll. Just a couple of changes. We do have a new team here in Missouri, but Texas A&M survives and advances. They are still the number 3 team in the country. Ohio State and Indiana still remain the number 1 and number 2 team in the country. Number 4, Georgia, they move up from 5 to 4. with Alabama losing at home against Oklahoma. Ole Miss moves as well. So it was pretty much a domino effect with Alabama losing. You had some of these SEC teams moving up. So Ole Miss is down number 5 inside the top 5. We will see if that's going to be where they are, because if that were to be in play, Georgia would earn a top 4 bye, and Ole Miss would be the number 5 seed hosting that group of 5 team. Oklahoma would be the number 8. Number 10 is Alabama. So they didn't drop too far. Didn't really expect it. It was a very close game. Alabama is still one of the top teams in the country. Number 12, Vandy. So Vandy is number 12. They're going to be on the outside looking in on the college football playoff. So this is definitely going to be critical. 2 weeks against Kentucky and Tennessee coming up. Texas moves all the way down to number 17. If that happens on Tuesday, they are pretty much out of the race. And number 20, Tennessee, they move up after their big, not even going to say a big win. I mean, it was New Mexico State. And number 23, Missouri, back inside of the poll. I'll be curious to see if the committee does that as well, especially after a dominant performance on Saturday. So what are your overall thoughts on the AP poll? What do you expect to see on Tuesday night's rankings with the SEC teams?
I think the AP got it right here. You could punish Alabama a little bit more. I mean, that's 2 losses, one, of course, being out of the conference. But I guess you can't really drop them below Vanderbilt. So I don't have any concerns with it. But I'll just use this as a moment to say that this group of 5 representative rule that the playoff committee's implemented is really going to backfire this year, because Vanderbilt is absolutely better than whoever wins the American Conference or the Sun Belt. And I think they're certainly better than whoever wins the ACC this year. So for them to be in a position here where they would get left out despite being ranked in the top 12, I mean, that might be some reason for some change. Not that Vanderbilt has the biggest pull in the world. If it was Alabama getting left out, we would see a rule change the next year. But, I mean, that's got to be eye-opening, and true college football fans would sniff that out. I mean, Vanderbilt has done everything they can to get ranked in the top 12, and then they would miss out for teams that are barely ranked or might not even be ranked, that have just as many losses as them, if not more, at a lower level of play. So that's a bummer if they miss it.
Yeah, you're definitely not the only one on that. I've heard a lot of people not liking this automatic bid, not feeling like a certain conference and even the group of 5 should get an automatic bid. I know that for years was like that, but a year like this, I feel like, I mean, there's not like an undefeated or a one-loss team. I mean, North Texas has 1 loss. James Madison has 1 loss.
Boise State was a true group of 5 team last year.
But, I mean, last year, though, they should never have been a top 4 seed and got the automatic bye. I mean, that was a cakewalk for Penn State, let's be honest with you. And let's be honest with you, whoever gets, say, Georgia's the 5 seed, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to be a blowout if it's like a James Madison or that. So I just think that if there's playoff expansion, sure, you can put in the group of 5, but I feel like you should just go away with the automatics, and it should just be the 12 best teams in the playoff. That's good for basketball and all, but not for college football. I think that a lot of people just want to see the 12 best teams get into the field. Obviously, it has to be based on record. It just can't just be like, oh, Texas is one of the best teams. They're 9-3. It just has to make sense of that. But I'm sure we will talk about that as soon as we get to our college football playoff race, which we will have plenty of time over the next couple of weeks to discuss that. Now let's move on to SEC fantasy. I ended up winning last week to put the score at 7-4. So the ultimatum was that this was a must-win for Wade to keep this thing rolling, or I'm going to clinch, because one more win, I clinch. The best that he could do is tie for the regular season, and it was definitely a big showing for Mr. Wade. So, Wade, let's take it through. As you can see, Marcel Reed and Kwan Lacey was definitely the story for your team.
Yeah, Marcel Reed, I mean, didn't look pretty at halftime, had multiple interceptions. His team didn't score a touchdown, but they needed points in the second half, and that meant that they had to just air it out with Reed. So I think 439 of the yards came through the air. It wasn't much of a day for him on the ground, but I mean, that's one of the better quarterback totals we've seen on the show, 452 yards. So I think that he continues to help his Heisman case. That should jump him up there in the stats, although you shouldn't look like the inferior quarterback at times against South Carolina. So
Yeah.
a little bit of concern there. Kawan Lacey, I mean, man, this team just runs through him literally. 229 yards. We saw Kentucky do it to Florida. We knew that Ole Miss was going to do it as well, but even this exceeded my expectations. This guy's just a touchdown machine. So I think that, besides Ahmad Hardy, he's the clear-cut second best running back in the conference. And then Chris Brazzell, I mean, he had a good game like we predicted. He had one big play. I think it was like a 40-yard catch. So I don't think he found the end zone, but 65 yards, nothing too shabby there. And then the LSU defense, I think this unit played really, really well. They shut down a mobile quarterback in Taylon Green. You got to keep in mind that one of the Arkansas touchdowns was scored directly on a punt block. So this defense only let up, 15 offensive points, and 340 yards isn't the greatest, but I think it was a good showing. I looked at Tennessee. They let up 340 as well. So either way, that was going to be the number. And 406 yards. I don't know if I've ever broken the 400 mark, but it definitely feels good.
Yeah, this late in the season, that's pretty impressive. And even the LSU defense, 340 yards, even without a guy like Whit Weeks. And Harold Perkins just loves to play against Arkansas. The 3 games that he's played against him feels like he's been the MVP of the defense. He had an interception, a couple tackles for loss, and a sack. Overall, I mean, you pretty much, even Chris Brazzell put up some numbers for you. So overall, good win, and 406 is going to be tough to beat. And as you can see, I think that you can already tell who won this week. So congratulations, Wade. So Wade now makes the mark 7-5. So he has this week and next week to maybe close this out in a tie, and it's going to come down to the bowl season. But Michael Van Buren, I said on last week's show, I'll just take whoever is going to be the starter for LSU. Ended up being Michael Van Buren. And Van Buren, honestly, a solid performance against Arkansas defense. That was bad overall in the season, but LSU's offense continues to just be the disappointment of this team. 257 yards overall. He did have 35 of those coming late in the fourth quarter on a crucial run to really put the Hogs away. Seth McGowan, my one Kentucky pick for the year against an undefeated Tennessee Tech team. Kentucky continues to be dominant, and they just need one more win to get to bowl eligibility. And honestly, they had 2 very winnable games against Vandy and Louisville, who is looking beatable at this point. But 82 yards for McGowan. If you're Wade and I, we usually text. I actually picked Seth McGowan, then I had Ahmad Hardy as my second pick. I hope, if I didn't have, I wish now that I would have went with Ahmad Hardy, but I don't think it would have mattered. I think Wade still would have won. Harrison Wallace continues to be one of the more Mr. Consistent wide receivers here in SC Fantasy, 68 yards. But as you can see, it was the Kawan Lacey show against the Gators. And Alabama defense, even in loss, 212. That is pretty solid, even in an SEC game, 212 yards. I will take that every single week. And a pretty solid performance. I mean, if Wade didn't put up 406, I mean, I'll take this every single day of the week.
195 is nothing to cry about.
Nothing to be ashamed for over here. So we will now move on to our SEC Fantasy Draft. But before we do that, we will dive into our weekly roster and rules. Only 2 more weeks of this. We have this week, and the next week we won't have SC Fantasy for the championship. And then everything will double once we get to the bowl season. So you have 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver in the defense. And our weekly rules, you cannot draft the same player twice in back-to-back weeks. Once you draft a defense, you can't use them again. That's definitely going to be crucial down the stretch. And both of us have used a player from all 16 representatives. So we are done with that rule until next season. Now let's move on to our SEC Fantasy Draft. We do have 1 newcomer. I think that we would have seen this quarterback at least once, but this is actually his first time on the show. That is Arch Manning, the quarterback for the Longhorns. And Joey Aguilar, he has been on this show, at least for my team. I know he's been on your team 1 or twice, but he's got a good matchup against the Florida Gators. But Arch Manning, how do you like his matchup against Arkansas? I know Arkansas had probably one of their best performances, but is that more of LSU's offense, or do you see Texas bouncing back at home?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has the making for a career day for Arch Manning. Certainly one of the more vulnerable defenses in the league. LSU didn't really test it that much. They played a very vanilla game, shocker. But Texas, they have points to prove. I mean, look, this team is going to need some help to make the college football playoff, if that's even a possibility. But
Yeah.
if they're going to make it happen, they have to put up a lot of points against Arkansas. And then you have to pull off an upset against A&M and probably put up a lot of points against them. So it's now or never for Arch Manning, and I think he's going to be able to do it this week at least. I mean, this Arkansas defense has let up 40-plus points to just about everybody. So I think Manning's going to be solid. He had good stats against Georgia despite the team only scoring 10 points. So I think it's a good week to get Arch in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with Aguilar. I think that this is going to be a high-scoring matchup. Both defenses have been up and down, and Tennessee's offense has been one of the best here in the SEC. You got Chris Brazzell, one of the best receivers in the country. So I'm just going to go with Joey Aguilar. He's really been consistent every single game, and every time I pick him, he's really been solid. So I'm going to pick him even in a Saturday night showdown against the Gators. Now let's go on to the running backs. We do have a new face, and I'm like the old reliable here. I'm going back to the well here with Mike Washington. But Harlem Berry, I'm actually glad that you brought him in because he's definitely been a bright spot for this LSU offense that we have mentioned every single week has been a struggle. But how do you like the matchup against the 8-2 Hilltoppers?
Yeah, I mean, Western Kentucky's not a shabby team. Obviously, they're going to be going to a bowl game. But, LSU's called a very vanilla offense. I don't expect that to change at this point. They split the carries between Durham and Berry each of the last 2 weeks. So I think pick one or the other. I'm just going to go with the younger guy. Just, they tend to do well in these games against the lower ranked teams. And if LSU does get up big, I think Berry will get a lot of the second half carries. At least that's my thought. But yeah, he's definitely the future of the backfield here at LSU. So whatever coach comes in, hopefully they're able to keep him on campus and utilize him next year. We'll see him a lot on the show.
Yeah, Harlem Berry definitely going to be crucial for LSU to keep heading into next season because you're still going to have Caden Durham in the roster and Harlem Berry, so that could definitely be a scary 1-2 punch with a right offensive-minded coach. Mike Washington's going to be the pick for me. He had a nice game against LSU. He had a touchdown and 75 yards going up against Texas rush defense. That just got beat a lot by Nate Frazier. Even Gunnar Stockton had some big runs too. So I mean, if Arkansas is going to want to stay in this one, they're just got to get into another shootout as they've been in a lot of these games. Because like Arkansas, just talk about them. Like 6 of their losses have been under 5 points. So this has definitely been a tough season. But this Arkansas team is a very bad football team. I know their record isn't what you think it is. But Mike Washington and this Arkansas offense, I expect them to put up some points against this Texas defense has been struggling as of late. Now let's move on to some new face wide receivers. Kendrick Law of Kentucky. I believe that's the first Kentucky receiver. It feels like we've both been picking Seth McGowan. The first time we're seeing Kendrick Law on the show. Same with Xavier Thomas. We have seen, I think we picked every LSU receiver at this point. We picked Barry Brown.
I think so. And none of them have had a return.
Yeah, we traded as Green too. So I think we pretty much picked every position player for the Tigers. But Kendrick Law, we haven't had him on the show, but he's really been a solid receiver for this Kentucky offense. It's finding their rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big part of this second half surge for Kentucky. He went over 100 yards on the weekend, double-digit catches as well. I know that was against Tennessee Tech, but Vanderbilt's defense has not looked good. And I think that game could be surprisingly high scoring. I think both teams are certainly going to run the ball well, but I think there's enough offense to go around here to Law. I think they're going to make it an emphasis to get him the football. He played at Alabama for the last few seasons. So, I mean, he's played a lot of conference ball at this point, and I think that he'll be a good pick. Had to get another Wildcat in here,
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to go Xavier Thomas, especially with the injuries to the receiver. Nick Anderson being out for the season. Aaron Anderson also banged up with a shoulder injury. Xavier Thomas has really stepped up into this wide receiver run role. You've seen Barry Brown get involved. But when Van Buren is the starting quarterback, I saw a very good connection with Xavier Thomas. Even if Garrett Nussmeier plays in this one, who knows who will be starting in this one? I guess we will find out on Saturday night. But Zamian Thomas has definitely had, a breakout season. We expected it would have been Chris Hilton, but it actually has been Zamian Thomas for this LSU offense. So I'm going to go with Thomas. You're going to go with Law. And to close it out, we're going to go with the defenses. You're going to go with the Gamecocks going up against Coastal Carolina, LSU versus Western Kentucky. I think that we pretty much circled both of these defenses, especially with like these FBS versus a group of 5 teams. So how does South Carolina finally find a pulse on defense and stop this Coastal Carolina offense?
Well, they got to play like they did in the first half against Texas
Yes.
A&M. I'm a little scared for this game. I think Coastal Carolina is going to come to play. I think South Carolina is going to feel very dejected. The bowl games are out of the realm of possibility. Their coach, at first we thought he might take the Virginia Tech job. I don't even know if there's interest there. They might be looking to can him anyways. But, yeah, I mean, this game could get ugly for the Gamecocks, but I did look. They're favored by 23 points. And a lot of that's due to Coastal Carolina having a quarterback injury. So that's no easy thing to do to make your first start on the road in the SEC. So I think the Gamecocks defense is going to be fine, but I do think this game could be low scoring overall.
Yeah, definitely with that. I'm going to go with LSU's defense. Just looking at it, I mean, I did have South Carolina. I was looking at them, but you took them. I wasn't going to pick Arkansas against Texas. So LSU, best available. I'll take it. It feels like it's been long overdue for me to use this LSU defense. They've really been solid this year outside when they go face off against opposing quarterbacks. Don't think that Western Kentucky, we've seen them in the past. They've been able to put up a lot of passing yards. So we will see what weeks is available or not. At this point, I'm not expecting it because at this point, you just might be out for the season. But even with that, LSU's defense has really been playing solid here down the stretch. So a lot of purple and gold here. We had Harlan Berry, Xavier Thomas in the LSU defense, and that's going to round out both our rosters here in Week 13. Check back on next week's show to see who wins for the week. All right, with all that being said, now let's kick it to Week 13 games. To pick them like we've been mentioning, it's a very lackluster week, let's be honest with you. Week 13 has always been the cupcake week. Hopefully, with the 9-game schedule, this is going to eliminate everything. There's going to be conference games throughout this late of the season. But nonetheless, we will dive right into our first game. Stanford at number 3, Texas A&M should be pretty easy because Stanford is 1-10.
Yeah, 2 teams in totally different spots. Got to go with A&M here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Texas A&M, and Chet's going to go with Texas A&M. I'll be honest with you, we're not going to spend too much time on these type of games because we know damn well what's going to happen. Now let's move on to a game that we're actually going to talk a little bit about. That is our SEC Talk game of the week. It is at 11 a.m. Number 23, Missouri at number 8, Oklahoma. Big game for both of these teams. I know Missouri is out of the college football playoff race, but a couple of wins could really get them back into like Citrus Bowl conversation. Oklahoma still, coming off of a big win. How do they respond? Coming back at home, they pretty much have to win out to be locked for the college football playoff. So, what do who do you have winning this one? Because the key in this one, Ahmad Hardy has really been sensational, but Oklahoma's rush defense too has really been good. So I believe that's going to be the key matchup for both teams.
Yeah, I mean, this is good on good, if you will. I'm just concerned at the quarterback position still for Missouri. I know the team did put up some points this week against Mississippi State, but, I mean, everybody really has. They've kind of been the doormat defense of the SEC. And Oklahoma's rounding into form. So if this game was on the road, it would give me a little hesitation, but I think the Sooners roll. It's a shame this one's not at night, though. I mean, this is a good game.
Yeah, hopefully, I mean, I'd rather have this one at night than Tennessee, Florida. I know that's a rivalry game, but this is a top 25 matchup. It deserves that.
This is a protected game, huh? Next year?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, this will be one of Oklahoma's 3 matchups. I think it's Ole Miss, Texas, and Missouri. So I'm looking forward to this one. We saw a lot of good matchups when they were in the Big 12 championship games, really quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, Bo Bubula does have outside shot to return this one. He was practicing in the pregame before the Mississippi State game, so we will see. But if Bo Bubula is not on the field, then I just don't really see Missouri really hanging. They will hang around in this one, but Oklahoma's defense has really turned it on. And Oklahoma, you're really starting to see John Mateer in this offense get back into form. So give me the Sooners at home. Judd is also going to go the Sooners, so a clean sweep in this top 25 showdown here in the SEC. We will go back to the doo-doo games as we have Charlotte at number 4, Georgia. I think we all know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, Georgia's on a roll.
Yeah, I'll go with the Dogs, and we will move on to another crappy game, Eastern Illinois at number 10, Alabama. Do we need to spend more than 1 second on this game?
Hey, look, Alabama lost, so they better be careful, but no, they're going to win this one.
All right, so all rolling with the Crimson Tide to bounce back here. Mercer at Auburn. I will say the time.
Hey, now Mercer's 9-1, and they're right up the road. I mean, I at least thought about this one, but no. Auburn, look, if anybody was happy about that Oklahoma win, it was Auburn because it gave them a little bit of hope. And now they can play spoiler on the Iron Bowl. So I'm looking forward to covering that one next week.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the Iron Bowl, Egg Bowl, and a lot of these rivalry games next week. It's definitely going to be more enjoyable actually talking about like Auburn, Alabama, not Mercer and Auburn, Eastern Illinois, all these crappy games. But we'll go back to another conference showdown and the old Southwest Classic rivalry game, Arkansas at number 17, Texas. We did see both of these teams face off last season. It was close for 3/4, and Texas pulled away in that one. Both of these teams, Arkansas, it feels like we've been trying to give them the win. They just can't get it. They very well might just go winless in the conference and just be the worst team in the SEC, especially with Kentucky already getting on the board. South Carolina barely getting on the board with their one win. Who did they even beat? Where was their one win? Could you
they beat Kentucky.
They beat Kentucky? Well, does that really count at this point? But Arkansas, number 17, Texas, how do you see this game shaping up?
Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like Arkansas is the worst team talent-wise in the SEC. I mean, I think that feels more like Kentucky still, honestly, if we're being real. But, Arkansas just hasn't been able to put together a full football game. And I just don't see that happening here on the road against Texas. Like I said, Texas still has a slim chance of making the playoff, and they're going to have to destroy some of these, I guess, their 2 remaining opponents. So that being said, I think this Texas team will be motivated, and I think they'll put up a lot of points.
Yeah, I agree with you. It feels like Texas just has to blow out both Arkansas and Texas A&M to even get back into consideration. They'll need like a team like Notre Dame to get another loss, like one of these SEC teams. They did beat Oklahoma, so they do have the head-to-head of that. So they probably would need Oklahoma to lose to jump back over them. But yeah, I love this Arkansas offense. Hate the defense. I just feel like this is just a big Texas bounce back. So give me the Longhorns. I do think this is going to be a close game. I mean, Arkansas has been in pretty much every game this season. So I do expect this a 4-quarter battle, but give me the Longhorns. Also going with the Burnt Orange as well. Now let's move on to our next game, Kentucky at number 12, Vandy. Kentucky with a win would become bowl eligibility. And if you ask me at the start of the season, I hate that I picked them as the worst team because now I look like a complete idiot for that. But Vandy still needs 2 more wins to feel solid about their college football playoff chances. They'll have Kentucky this week and then Tennessee. So I'm honestly, out of all these games, very interested in this matchup on Saturday night. I'm sure you are as well. So are you going to keep the big blue train churning, or are you going to go with Diego Pavia in the doors off of a bye?
I think Big Blue catches him snoozing. I think Diego's trying to sleep through that bye week and into the Tennessee game. But Kentucky's, they're playing really well. Yeah. We knew they could run the football. They're starting to throw it better with Cutter Boley. I think that he's a guy that they absolutely need to keep on campus. Kentucky's gone with a transfer quarterback, it seems, for like a decade now. I'd like to see them, dip into that basketball money and pay Boley to stick around. Yep. I think that's the only way they can really build.
They wasted their money on Calzada.
Yeah, whatever money you found for him, put it in your freshman quarterback's pockets. I mean, look what a quarterback can do for a program. Look at Vanderbilt. I mean, yes, this team is better overall than it used to be, but a large part of that's due to Diego Pavia turning this program around. Yeah. So we could be talking about Kentucky this time next year and in a totally different situation if they can do that. But, Vanderbilt is a good team. They see that 12 by them. They're going to be motivated. This pick could backfire on me, but I don't know. I just think the Wildcats have a lot of momentum right now.
I mean, either way, I feel like this is definitely going to be a four-quarter battle to the end. This could be like a back-and-forth, grinded-out game. I know Vandy, last time they saw them, had to put up 48. Don't think they'll have to do that against Kentucky. I think that Kentucky has found their rhythm on defense. And you talked about it. Cutter Boley has definitely been the story. That's why, like, I picked Kentucky because I thought Zach Calzada was going to be it. But if you're Kentucky, you're very grateful that it's not Calzada because we have seen Calzada, and let's be honest with you, he is one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen.
We've seen him at 3 SEC schools fail.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky, I mean, they beat like a very impressive Tennessee Tech team, 10-0. Like, they beat the doors off them. So that was a very impressive win. But Vandy coming off of the bye week, it's at home at night, too. So I'm going to go the doors. It's not going to be easy. They're going to have to earn this one as most of their wins have come this season. Give me like a 24-20 type of score. It's going to be a very like defensive battle between two really talented quarterbacks, but I'm going to go with Vandy. I just want to see them make the college football playoff. It would be a very nice story to see Vandy, so I'm going to continue to pick them to win. Jets also going to go with the doors. So, I mean, you've been on the Big Blue
Been here before.
for the past 5 years or so. So we will see if Big Blue Nation can get you on the board here for the picks. As we will dive into our next game, Coastal Carolina at South Carolina in-state battle between both these teams. I don't really remember the last time that we saw this on the gridiron, but do we have South Carolina winning this one? Not going to mean anything in this point in the season.
Makes for a damn good baseball matchup. I've seen this series quite often.
Try Coastal, though.
Yeah, but back in their heyday, these teams both hosted regionals quite often. Football, they did play, I believe, in 2017, maybe 16. So it's been a little bit. I think this is one that South Carolina has scheduled a few times in the future now that Coastal Carolina is a Sun Belt member. It looks a little bit better than playing the Citadel at Ole Miss. But, yeah, I mean, I think there's cause for concern here. Coastal Carolina, they're 6-5 or something like that. I mean, they're not lighting the world on fire, but South Carolina, there is no bowl game coming. This has been a very tough season. You had a chance to get a season-changing win against Texas A&M, and who knows, maybe you rode that momentum all the way to a bowl game. Well, all that's gone now, so I think they're going to be dejected. Lenora Sellers might be thinking about the future, but like we mentioned, Coastal is ushering in a new quarterback. That's hard to do on the road. So give me South Carolina in this one. I think it's going to be an ugly one. I think it's going to be like 23-17, but the Gamecocks get it done.
Yeah, I'm on the same thing. Like, how does this team respond after a game that they would have won 99 out of 100 times if they played that game? Like, what's the point? Like, you're pretty much playing for nothing at this point. You're not going to a bowl game. You have Clemson. Is that game at home this year, I believe?
It is, yeah.
It is. So, I mean, yeah, you still have that game. I'll pick South Carolina. It's going to, like I mentioned, it's going to be an ugly game. I mean, Coastal Carolina is going to come in here. I mean, they're going to play with their hair on fire because we've seen this plenty of time. Like the in-state school is going to want to beat, the bigger program in this one. Coastal Carolina hasn't had that, elite season in the past. But I'm going to go with South Carolina. I'm not even going to give you a score prediction. I'm probably not even going to watch this game. But South Carolina will win this one. Chet's going to go to the Gamecocks. Let's move on. We don't need to talk about them anymore. Number 20, Tennessee at Florida. This is still one of the best rivalries in the SEC. I know Florida is out of bowl running, but this could definitely, Tennessee as well. They're out of the college football playoff race, 3 losses. So, overall, this game doesn't mean much, but for both teams, you ask them, this rivalry means everything to them. So, Tennessee at Florida, it is at night, which is definitely going to provide some juice for Florida. So, do you have, I'm not even going to call it an upset, but do you have an upset happening? Do you have the balls storming over Florida here?
Well, I mean, I think with this being in the swamp, that gives Florida an advantage. It's just kind of like South Carolina, though, You were up big on a top 5 team. You blew the lead. Now you don't even have a bowl game to look forward to. So where's this team's head at? I think Lagway is going to play. I mean, I don't think he's going to give up. So I think that'll keep him in the game. But ultimately, this Tennessee offense is just really good when it's in a groove, and I think they'll find it. So give me Tennessee.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point for that. I definitely think the home environment is going to, make Florida. Florida's, they're 3-7. They're going to get up though for this rivalry game. I think it's different. South Carolina playing Coastal Carolina, they probably don't give a crap about playing a team like that. Florida, when they see Tennessee coming into their town, especially the night game, and Florida, even like they have 7 losses, but they've gotten blown out like probably 1 or 2 games. Like they played like probably the best like out of Ole Miss against Georgia 2 weeks ago, and then this offense has been able to find their identity. DJ Lagway had an impressive first half against Ole Miss. I know the second half wasn't great, but it just feels like Florida is going to get this one done against Tennessee. Tennessee is going to be maybe looking at against Vandy, but give me Florida in this one. I definitely think that the Gators get this one done. And Chet's going to go with the Volunteers. So I am the lone Gator on that one. I think I'm pretty much just picking them just because it's a night game. If this was at 11 a.m., I probably would go Tennessee. But I think that the home crowd, even when like if Florida has like 3 losses, this crowd still showed up a couple of weeks ago. I believe when they played Mississippi State. So give me the Gators, and Wade and Chet are going to go with the Big Orange. Now let's go on to our nightcap, 6:45 on the SEC network. We've seen this 2 teams face off quite some time. We saw it a couple of years back, I believe in like 2013, 2014, whenever Les Miles was the coach. And Western Kentucky 8-2, and with Kennesaw State losing, Western Kentucky is now back in the Conference USA championship race. LSU at this point just getting to play for the Mayonnaise Bowl at this point. But West Kentucky at LSU. Can LSU actually score more than 24 points against an FBS opponent? Will it happen on Saturday night?
I don't know. We've already seen him play one Sun Belt squad or one Tech. Conference USA squad in LA Tech. I think LSU wins this, but I thought for sure we would have put up 25 plus against Arkansas. I think it was fitting that we fell right below it at 23.
Harlan Berry falling down, the streak continues.
Yeah, I mean, freshman doing what he's told to do. Yeah. That being said, I'll give the Tigers getting into the 30s in this one. I mean, I think they kind of got the monkey off their back. You had lost 3 in a row. You're playing a little conservative against Arkansas because everybody told you should win, and you were losing at one point, so you're playing very conservatively. So I hope they just come out and just go all in and just show us what this offense could have been. And I mean, look, it would be probably their best win on the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with the Tigers too, especially with a lot of seniors on this team. You went all in on the transfer portal this season. Obviously, it whiffed. Starts at the head, and that's why you fired Brian Kelly a couple of weeks back. But I do expect LSU to finally break that streak, get it over into the 30s. Western Kentucky, I mean, they're not going to be any slouch for this one. They're going to really play competitive. I mean, look at what Louisiana Tech came in here. They weren't scared. West Kentucky's played in these big-time environments. LSU will win this one. I'm not going to say it's going to be that big of a blowout that we've seen in years past, but I will go with the Tigers getting their 7th win on the season. Then they have the trip of death to Norman next week, which will not be fun for LSU. But Chet going with the purple and gold. So that's going to be it for our week 12 game, week 13 game, excuse me. Like you've mentioned, a couple of conference games and a lot of games that I don't think a lot of people are going to be talking about unless you're a fan of them. But now let's get into the hot topics, and we will close out this show here. We do have some news from the Tennessee program. Boo Carter is no longer part of the Tennessee football program. He will be entering the transfer portal, so that's some big news for the Volunteers. But the transfer portal, you could always replace him, so it doesn't really matter. But let's go on to the next one. Is Texas out of the college football playoff discussion? I know that Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler were talking about it when Georgia was pretty much in control of this one. They were talking about like they still have that loss to the number 1 team in the country, and then the couple losses have been close outside the Georgia one. So even with 3 losses, do you think that Texas is out of the playoff discussion, or do you think that they still have a chance?
I mean, I think they have a chance based on the fact that they beat 2 of the teams ahead of them, Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. I mean, I think both of those teams could go undefeated and make this a non-issue, but they also both have 2 conference games to close the season. So it's very possible that one or both of them slip up. at some point, and then Texas would kind of have the head-to-head. But I guess two things: a really ugly loss against Florida. Florida continues to trend in the wrong direction. That would probably be the worst loss of anybody in the college football playoff, maybe besides Alabama losing to Florida State. But honestly, Florida's probably worse. And then it's hard to get a 30-point loss to Georgia out your head. So, I mean, I think it would be one of those things where they would make it if there was like literally nobody else they could put in.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, you saw last year with like South Carolina, they were 9-3. They were just outside of it. Same with Ole Miss, they were 9-3, but they had some terrible losses, especially the one to Kentucky. So, even in this expansion, we still haven't seen a 3-loss team. We will see if they go to like 14 or 16. Then that discussion will happen. But Texas, they would have to win out. They would have to beat number 3 Texas A&M. I think that they would have to need like Notre Dame to lose, like one of the Big 12 schools to lose. So, BYU would have to get another loss. Vandy, Oklahoma, and Alabama would all have to get another loss as well. But even after that, I think that Texas has played their way out. I would have seen it if they like would have lost like a close one, like they lost on a field goal or something like that. But you can't get blown out like that on the road and still be in discussion. It's also going to be big of where they are on Tuesday night's ranking. If they're still in the top 15, they still have a shot. But if they're like in the AP poll where they're number 17, then all doubts are pretty much over. So I think answer that one. I think that Texas is pretty much done out of the door. Let's go on to some more coaching news. Should South Carolina and Shane Beamer part ways? I don't think he's going to go to Virginia Tech. Looks like James Franklin is going to be making their way there. So do you think that South Carolina should part ways with him, or should they wait another cycle, especially with already like 4 SEC programs open?
Yeah, I think you're too far behind at this point. Look, I mean, you knew this was going to be a tough schedule for the Gamecocks. We just thought the team was a little bit better than they were. And they just weren't. I mean, instead, this team is more like a Mississippi State where they've shown flashes, but they play one of the hardest schedules in the conference, and they're just the worst team every week. So they need to get out of that schedule cycle. Not that having Georgia as a protected game helps. They haven't played the Bulldogs the last 3 years, but now they will. But yeah, I think you give them a fresh start. Use the portal. See if Sellers is coming back. That's a big part of it. But yeah, absolutely. He'll be on the hottest seat of anybody going into next season.
Yeah, I think he's going to get one more year, especially with like Arkansas, Auburn, LSU, and Florida. There's just too much competition in the conference itself. I think next season there won't be too many SEC teams on the hot seat. I think that Mark Stoops has saved his job. Maybe like Jeff Levy could be on the hot seat, depending if Mississippi State continues to just be like this middling, like really don't have like much success like heading into next season. So I think that, maybe wait, just give him another year, just bite the bullet. Maybe you could save Lenoris because you'll have one more year of Lenoris. And then like defense, you really have to get like a lot of transfer portals because like you pretty much had Dylan Stewart and that was about it this season. I think that was the main concern for myself and a lot of people here in the conference. So I think for now, Shane Beamer is good, but next season, lose to like, I don't even know who they open up the season with, but lose to like somebody you shouldn't. And Shane Beamer is probably going to be gone in September and October. Let's move on to our next hot topic. Go back to the college football playoff discussion. Can Oklahoma make a run for the playoff? We already talked about their 2 remaining games versus Mizzou and at home against LSU. So do you see the Sooners winning out and being the representative? We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Like the SEC could have like 4 or 5 teams now with Oklahoma beating Alabama.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma's in a good position. I mean, they have the loss to Ole Miss. That's completely fine. Ole Miss is going to be a college football playoff team in their own right. And then you lost to Texas. I mean, that's a rivalry game. It was at a neutral site. You were down. You had your quarterback, but he wasn't at full speed. So I don't think that's a bad loss. And if it is, they avenged it with a good win against Alabama. So definitely can't lose again. If they get the 3 losses, I think that knocks them potentially. But even then, I mean, I don't know. I guess It probably is going to come down to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. I mean, if Oklahoma wins out, they'll hold their ground on Vanderbilt. If they were to lose and Vanderbilt's to win out, I think Vanderbilt would get in there.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think that we both have, all have Oklahoma winning this week. And I'll be honest with you, I'm probably picking Oklahoma to beat LSU next week, just looking at Oklahoma, the way that their defense is. So I think at this point, yes, I would have Oklahoma in the playoff. And if Vandy can beat Tennessee, that might be another. So we could get even 6 SEC teams in this college football playoff. So we will see what happens here over the last 2 weeks of this regular season. Once we get to the SEC championship game, still a lot of scenarios. I think that Texas A&M, even Alabama with the loss, they would just have to win out. They would be in Atlanta. Georgia would need Texas A&M or Alabama to lose once more, and then Ole Miss, like you mentioned, would need some help from a lot of teams in the SEC. So it's only like a 3 or 4 team race to get to Atlanta, but I think that a lot of these SEC teams are okay with missing out on that and just getting right to the college football playoff. So we will be back next week talking about one of the greatest weeks of college football, and that is rivalry week. We have the Egg Bowl, the Iron Bowl, we have the Sunshine Showdown, and then we have a couple of new rivalry games. LSU, Oklahoma, obviously that will be going away since LSU's 3 opponents will change. Same with Oklahoma. So we do appreciate everybody for tuning in, both on Facebook and on YouTube. And we will be back next week talking about the last week of this regular season and looking ahead to postseason football in the conference and overall. Because once we get to the postseason, I know that we're going to be SEC talk. Obviously, we will talk about our SEC teams, but the focus will be on the college football playoff and where SEC teams will be heading to bowl season. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your week. And we will be back next week leading up to Thanksgiving. So enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you back here right here on SEC Talk.